Now let's have a look at how we can do this using Ableton Live or any other DAW. The concept is exactly the same. So, as we said, ostinato is a repetition of a single pattern. Let's start with the bass. The bass is the obvious choice because it's going to give you the foundation for a harmonic progression, but it's also very rhythmical at the same time. We're going to go for A minor. We're going to use the pattern of don't clap this one back once again. Let's lower the tempo a little bit. Let's make it 80 again, just to make it easier to work, even if it's going to end up being faster. Let's start from a slow tempo. 3, 4. Perfect. We have this very basic section now. Let's click on it so that we can look at it. As you can see, it's don't clap this one back. It's not very precise, so we can quantize it, transform, grid, and we're going to put 8 notes. Because don't clap this one back, those are quavers, so there are 8 notes. Very well. Now we have this. Let's listen to it. Perfect. It's not very beautiful yet, but we're working on it. So let's move it down an octave to start with. And this time we're going to start from here. Perfect. Now that we have that, we can start thinking about a rhythm, something that would complement this kind of pattern. So let's choose a drum, drums, and select I think this one will do. Now we take this little bar that you have on top of your timeline and we just select this area so that this loop is going to be played over and over again. By pressing this button here, it gets to be repeated. We have our pattern to work on, and now we start finding a drum kit part. Perfect. Now that I found something interesting, I'm going to record it. 2, 3, and 4. Perfect. Now that we have a basic drum kit part, let's polish it a little bit. We can get rid of the loop. So we can take this section here, highlight all of them, and once again, transform 16th notes perfect. So we take this little line, maybe we get it to start a little later once our ostinato is actually well established. So let's take this, erase it. We can move this whole section to the beginning. We can take this one and put it there instead. Can copy and paste this over and over again. Very well. Let's listen to it. Now that we have this, we can repeat this a couple of times. Let's listen from the top. Perfect is an excellent starting point. What I like to do next is to use a different kind of instrument, something in the high register, because we have the ostinato on a bass line, we have our drum kit coming in doing its thing. Now we would need something to add a bit of sparkle to the mix. So let's add a MIDI track, and this time we're going to use some nice sounds in the high register, something like a pad maybe. I think Celestial Part will do the job for now. It doesn't really matter. Nothing is written in stone. We can change it anytime. But now that we have this ostinato line, I would like to find a chord that sits beautifully with the ostinato line. Let's have a look. I'm going to play in a loop and just experiment with the keyboard. Start with one note maybe. This is very loud, so let's put it down. I think A minor works beautifully, so I'll tell you what, I'm just gonna put that down. There's no need to wait any longer if you know that that's what you're gonna have. So I'm gonna press record from here, make sure that my track is ready to be recorded. I just improvised a little bit. Once the flow is going, why not? Make all the mistakes that you need to make. Who cares? You can always fix your work. You can open the editing window like this and expand on it, making sure that it's nice and clean. You can start by highlighting all of them, whether we're already highlighted. You highlight all of them and you can snap it to the grid so that it's nice and precise. Now let's go and correct the notes that are not working. Well, in case you're wondering what I was doing, I decided to keep the A in place as a reminder that we are still connected to the bass line that is just doing A's, nothing else. Then I created an A minor chord in the first bar, and then I took every other note that wasn't an A and I pushed it up a semitone as to create a little bit of tension so that you can go away from tonality a little bit. Remember, the risk of playing with ostinatos is that things are going to be a little too boring. So once you introduce the element of stability, it's good to find something fun to do somewhere else, in this case harmony. So without thinking too much about harmonic progressions or complicated harmony, I just moved all the notes that were not an A up a semitone and down a semitone to create a chromatic approach to it, which is going to create some dissonance, which is a nice thing. Let's listen to it again. So A minor, and then I moved it up, back to a minor, and then down a semitone, up A minor again, and then up, and then down. I even made some mistakes, some silly stuff like this one. Not a problem. I mean, this specific case, I don't think is particularly nasty. It's okay. You can choose to polish it or to make something nice out of it. You can make it a feature. So here, once again, it's one way of using ostinatos in a way that is interesting and is not too complicated from a harmonic point of view. Again, all that I've done here on the piano was moving a couple of notes up and down. It's all stuff that you can do on the DAW if you want to, using your mouse and moving those notes. For example, as you can see, the first chord is clearly A, C, A, and A again. And then I took these two notes and moved them up. You can easily change the position of each note using your mouse if you're not very good at using the keyboard. At this point, the only thing that is missing is a nice melody, something someone can whistle back, because until now, our ostinato is giving us the nice solid ground for our composition and the groove. The drum kit is keeping everything in place. The chords are expanding your horizon a little bit, making it a little more interesting. The final thing, it's a nice little melody. So let's try to work that out. So I'm going to create a new MIDI track, and this time I'm going to go for a lead. Let's find a lead that we like. go for something quite basic. It's called Basic Waves Lead. We're going to put it on. We're going to get the volume down a little bit. It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be as prominent as many other melodies could be. It's just a little addition to get the chance for people to come away from your composition with something they can actually whistle and remember. So, once again, we're going to put the loop on, and we're going to start messing around with the melody, trying to find the notes that fit beautifully. A minor means that every single white key that you have on your keyboard will do beautifully. So start somewhere and start finding something that is interesting. There you go. It's very simple. I just used C, D, E, and F, just 4 notes. And it doesn't need to be complicated. And in this case, being only 4 notes and having a pattern that is repeated over and over again, also the melody will end up being an ostinato. So let's record it now. Let's take the loop off, and now let's record. There you go. Improvised once again, why not? Just because the ostinato is repeated all the time, it doesn't need to be identical every single time. Some variations of it are perfectly acceptable as long as you keep the integrity of your composition pointing in the right direction. What I'm trying to say is that as long as the audience is able to recognize that you are sitting in a pattern and you're staying there following the ostinato line, you don't need to be excessively rigid about it. You can just be flexible about it and introduce some variations and modifications to your line.